Listeners, we've a special treat for you today, for as the domed ceiling of the hallowed hall began to dance with portents, our oracles realized the presence that would be gracing us this joyous day was not one, but two, a father and a daughter, Mark and Kristina Ritorto, the latter of whom began realizing her love for writing on the printed page at the remarkable young age of 4 years old. And now, at the age of only 10, has 2 published novels to her name, Invisible Girl and I Am a Survivor, inspiring and heartwarming tales about friendship and overcoming life's most unexpected and unjust challenges. But as if such a remarkable achievement weren't enough on its own, her love and vigor for the craft has inspired her father Mark to spin a yarn of his very own. And so it is that the world is now able to enjoy the gripping thriller saga that begins with the Cabal. Join Detective John Esposito as his quest to claim justice for the murder of a dear friend leads him to uncover a global conspiracy that threatens to envelop the world. Mark, Kristina, to say your presence here is welcome is to gravely understate how thrilled we are to have the privilege of your company and conversation. So please accept our warmest of welcomes to the Fanatarium.
And with that introduction, I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Marco Ritorto and his daughter, Kristina Ritorto.
Hi, how you doing?
I am doing great. Is Kristina there as well? If I hear in the background. Hello there. I have 2 kids right now down here with me, and I have another one in the oven for due in 2 months. So I'll have more kids with me. But I do work in schools, and so I might have more questions for your daughter than I do for you in some ways, because I work in as a school counselor with.
Oh, that's great.
With kids 12 and under, so it's kind of what I do.
Ah, and congratulations on your other child that's going to be coming into the world.
Yeah. So you guys are a family of authors, which is kind of awesome, actually. Usually when I've seen a family of authors, it's like someone who's, a grandparent by now, and then their kids, are adults. And I don't usually see a parent and then their young kids also writing. So why don't you tell me about why you guys decided to become how you became a family of writers? Did someone start first and inspire the other? Or is it kind of all at one time sort of thing?
Well, basically what happened was it all started with Kristina when she was 10. She was writing a book, and I asked her if she was interested in publishing it. And she was very excited and finished the book, and then we published it. And as we went through that process, I remembered a book that I had on a back burner that I started like about 10 or 11 years ago. And I still had a copy. I'm like, you know what, let me finish it. And we took it from there. So to answer your question, it was my daughter who started first, and then she inspired me to become an author as well.
So 10-year-olds don't usually write books. I remember being that age in elementary school where they'd write books, but it's usually the type of one where you have like pencil or crayon drawings and like a sentence or two on the bottom, and they bind it together with this spiral binding for you, and you take it home at the end of the school year. It wasn't the type of one that you'd publish. So Kristina, how did you come up with? Well, you have 2 books now, I'm a Survivor and Invisible Girl, and these aren't like, I'm a Survivor's 30 pages, but the other one's, significantly longer. How did you come up with writing these books, and what inspired you to do that?
At first, I wrote, I was given to me by a girl in my class. I was just looking for ideas. She gave me that, so I just put it into a book. And the second one was something that all me he could just so I was inspired because I know in class I'm a little quiet, and I know a lot of the people I know are quiet, and so I tried to make a book that ends with a positive message. But when you're being quiet, it's usually because you're afraid. So, but the message in my book is that sometimes you just have to be brave. Stuff.
That's a good message to have. I work as my day job is I'm a school counselor, and I've worked with mental health with young kids, and you know the the being quiet is probably one of the most stereotyped part of being in school. People think there's either something to worry about or there's nothing to worry about, and they're usually wrong both ways. And it is good that as someone your age is actually writing about that aspect of life, because it's more powerful coming from you than it would be coming from an adult telling a kid, here's what you should do.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Exactly.
And then, Mark, what about you? You wrote a book called The Cabal Saga Begins, which, it's, there's murder in it, there's politicians in it, there's a ninja, FBI, it's a thriller, I guess you'd put it.
Exactly.
I guess kind of like a Lee Child's type thriller. And you said this one was on the back burner for a while. Like you actually had it written, or you had an idea in your head and you decided to finish it.
Well, when I originally started it, the first time it was before Kristina was even born. It was really originally just mostly supposed to be a book based on a ninja character. But 10 years later, around the time when I decided to get back into writing a book, a friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, got diagnosed with cancer. So I took a lot of my personal frustrations and put it into the book. So in the book, the main character is trying to solve a murder of a friend. Mm-hmm. So I guess in this case, I'm trying to figure out in my own way as to, why bad things happen to good people. So during the course of the book, this particular character, not only is his friend dead, but this happened to be a U.S. senator, and then he encounters a bunch of people during the course of the investigation, and then they determined that their lives had all been impacted by this one particular secret society called the Cabal. And then as the investigation continues on, it is discovered that this secret society, the Cabal, has a plan for an international terrorist attack, and at the end of the day, they end up thwarting the attack. The book, has all the ingredients of a great action, thriller, suspense, adventure book. So if anybody's out there that like action, suspense, along with conspiracy theories, vigilante justice, and action heroes, then this is the perfect book. It's good for both adults and young adults who love action adventure novels.
And I'm assuming that the ninja character has something to do with your love of martial arts?
Yes, it does. I've been performing the martial arts on and off since I was 14 years old. I have a black belt in 2 different styles of Taekwondo and a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Nice.
I've done a couple of Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. I've competed in the Pan Ams. I've gotten a gold medal at the Grappler's Quest. I was like the cruiserweight champion. 2-time silver world medalist in the Nogi expert division with the NAG organization.
Nice.
So yeah, I've always been an avid martial artist.
One thing I find fascinating about doing so many of these is there are a lot of authors that latch onto martial arts, and then that helps make their books a lot better. Like there's Steve Perry, who's written lots of genre work. Steve Perry, not the Journey singer, the author. He's done lots of genre work.
Sounds familiar.
He's done lots of genre work. But he is, I forgot the exact style of martial arts he did, but he's a fan of martial arts, and he invented a new style, which then he put into his books. Whereas like John Whitman, who's written a ton of books, but he's Krav Maga. He's actually Krav Maga trainer for the Israeli army now. And,
okay.
So he's written a lot of stuff about Krav Maga. And so he can add that to his stuff. It adds a lot more realism to fight scenes and action when you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Other ones do sword fighting and so on. So it definitely lends itself to help make things more realistic, because like in your book, for example, when you have a ninja, FBI agents, detectives, and so on, a lot of them would have some sort of hand-to-hand combat training. When it comes to FBI, usually nowadays they have something like Krav Maga, so it's close and deadly. But it really lends itself to make it real rap versus throws a punch, does a backflip, and something more generic.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, it helps a lot with when you're writing the fight scenes. And when I was writing the book, I was kind of trying to write it as if the book would eventually, hopefully one day become a movie. So I wrote that with that in mind. And there are some flips. There's some weaponry with some sword fighting. Even with the FBI agent. I think that the officer, the detective in the story, he's got a background of a boxer, and an FBI agent just happens to be a amateur MMA fighter on the side. So there are a lot of characters in the book that have a martial arts background. And, as an author, you kind of take things from your own experience and life, and you kind of fit that into your story. Like even with Kristina, with her book, Invisible Girl, I actually, to be honest with you, I didn't realize that she based it on a character that was shy, because I never really thought of Kristina being shy, but I guess in school, right, Kristina, come closer. I guess when she's out in public and with other kids her age, she's shy. So she chose that as an influence for the character in her book. So kudos to Kristina.
Yeah. Yeah, you write what you know, and that makes it more powerful. Now, if what you know happens to be Elvish languages and you're an expert linguist like, say, Tolkien, what you know turns to be more fantastical. But when it comes to real life things, the closer you are to what you know, the stronger the story is. And Invisible Girl is definitely one that is told in a way that you'd have to relate to understand it fully. And a lot of people can relate to the shy person, because honestly, when you're in your age, outgoing is not the most common thing.
Exactly. So when she wrote the book, right, Kristina, you felt like character being so shy that people aren't noticing her, so she felt invisible, right?
So what I do notice, your book, The Cabal, and I Am a Survivor, they're both on Audible.
Yes.
Is Invisible Girl going to be on Audible soon?
Yes, it is. We are waiting for Amazon. We approved the narrator that did the work. We hired but we're doing a profit split with the female that's doing the reading of the audio book. I forget her name off the top of my head. But we ran into some delays. Unfortunately, she's I guess just got diagnosed with cancer, so that delayed the book a little bit. But she finished it up. We approved it. We are just waiting for the final go-ahead from Amazon to say, hey, from a quality standpoint, you are good to go. So hopefully we'll hear back within the 10 to 14 business days, and that will be out in the market. Like you said, her other book, I Am Survivor, that actually just came out into audiobook format probably like 2 or 3 months ago. And I think my book, The Cabal, came out a month before that. But yes, her Invisible Girl will be out in audiobook format very soon.
So do you guys have any contact or know your narrators personally at all? Like, I Am Survivor is Felicia Ilinum, and Cabal is Christian Eros. Do you have any contact with them at all, or is it totally you submit it to Audible and Audible picks through their profit sharing narrative?
Oh, no. Just so anybody who's out there that's interested in converting their book to audio book format, I highly recommend that you do it, because it's another stream of revenue, and it's another content format to help promote you as a brand in your author brand. Basically, when you go through the program is called ACX. That's the company that actually makes the audiobooks for Audible. And you have to have your book published first, particularly in Kindle format. And then so that it's in the system. And then what you do is you go through a process. You choose whether you want to go exclusive with them, which is like a 7-year contract. And if you do that, there's no upfront cost to you as an author. And you submit it out to the marketplace, and then you get all these, you write a little script up, and all these narrators, or voice actors as they like to be called, audition for your book. And that's the route we chose. The other route is if you don't want to be exclusive with Amazon, you can choose to pay the voice actor. I don't know if it's like a finished product or by the hour. I forget the specifics, but so far we had a good experience. Especially the gentleman that did my book, Christian Eros, the Audible. I found him to be very friendly, right on point. He contacted me after I approved and asked him told him that he passed the audition. He immediately made contact with me through Google Hangouts. We had a voice chat. And then I would say he was done with my book within a week. And then after that, we've done if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see like me interviewing him on the YouTube.
Okay.
So yeah, he was very helpful. So we've been kind of lucky. You put the script out there, you make it known in the marketplace on ACX saying that, hey, my book is available for auditions, and then all these voice actors audition it. And then you listen to the audio sample they provide, and you pick it.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. And then after they do the work, you approve it. And then what ACX does is they actually have someone that does a sound check to make sure it meets their quality standards. And then once that's done, then it goes out to Audible, Amazon, and iTunes.
Okay. And just so people know, even more detail, since we've had a lot of people who do voice acting on this show, what he's talking about when he talks about the Audible share, it's basically say the split deal would be say the voice actor gets $4 per book. If it's a $20 book on Audible, $4 per book sold, or $1 per book sold, depending on the thing, for every copy sold. Or the flat rate is usually, it's called PFH, which is per hour rate. So if there's 70,000 words, that's usually 7 hours of work, and it's usually somewhere between $75 to $100 an hour, which is cool. Both of which are good if you want to do voice acting. This is a good way to do it and get a start. People can hear your voice.
I highly recommend it.
So
to anybody who wants to be a voice actor, I highly recommend it. It gives you exposure. And if that's the career path you want to choose. And, some people choose not to do the profit sharing because they want to keep all the profits that are made up front to themselves. But like with the profit sharing, the way it works is Amazon keeps whatever the share is for the author splits it with the voice actor.
Yep.
And it's only for 7 years. And I just figured at this point, I was new to the medium, so let me try it that way.
Okay.
But for some other authors, if you're a big time author, you may not want to share the royalties. You can, go the other route where you pay them up front.
Yeah.
So
I can only imagine how much someone makes for narrating like a Georgia or a Martin book with 60 hours.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's a lot of reading. So one thing I wonder when it comes to audiobooks, I'll ask each of you this: what are some things that you've learned you like in a narrator? That you've done one book and you're writing another one, so I'm assuming you're going to look for audio for that one. And then Kristina, you've done 2 books now via Audible. What are some things that you like to look for when someone is narrating your books?
So I want someone who who speaks sort of with character and shows emotions through the way characters would speak. So if someone in my book was angry, it would be cool if someone would show the anger, because it's important that the readers know how the characters in my book are feeling, because feelings are a big part in my books.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. What about you, Mark? What do you like to look for?
I think Kristina hit it on the button. You don't want someone that sounds like a robot when they read the book. Because if that was the case, I would have done it myself, and I would have gotten a bigger portion of the profits. But I felt that I wanted someone, not only from a time-saving standpoint, because it would take time for me to do the book correctly. I figured it's easier if you get an actor because they didn't know how to interpret a character because they're used to reading scripts. And like the gentleman, Kristina Ritorto, who did my audio book, he did a great job. He changed his voice to meet each character in my book. And I'm definitely planning to use him again for whatever audio book I do in the future, because I found him to be very professional. And he did a great job because he would ask me if he had any questions. Like, for instance, one of the ninja characters, obviously Japanese, he clarified some of the Japanese terms, and he took the time to ask me questions on how certain characters would feel in certain scenes. So I think Kristina hit it right on the button. It's all important that the person does not sound like a robot, because otherwise the author can do themselves. And that the author can convey some kind of feeling and emotion into how the book should be portrayed. So that's the difference between audiobooks and books that, that are in printed format or even in ebook format, is that when you listen to a book, you're listening to a story. And the person that does the reading, they're taking the author's interpretation, and it's kind of like a movie, except you're listening to it. So you're taking, like if it's, fiction, you're taking the listeners away from their day-to-day life and into whatever the story is that the voice actor's portraying in audio format. Just like if you read a book, if you're reading a fantasy book, let's say about princesses, you're taken away from your day-to-day life, whether you're working, with work and family, and now you're envisioning the background and you're seeing princesses running around the field or whatever the book is. If it's an action book, you're envisioning yourself being a cop and chasing a robber or whatever. That's the whole point of writing a novel or producing an audiobook, is to take the average person away, distract them from their day-to-day life. Entertain them. That's the whole point.
Okay. So basically the biggest takeaway I take is, as long as the voice actor is willing to communicate with you back and forth to make sure that things are done as you want it done, that is the key, versus them just going ahead and doing what they want.
Exactly.
Okay. That's good to know. So another question I have for both you is, what is the biggest challenge or something you've learned through trial, I guess, writing your books that you wish you had known before you started?
You want to answer that one, Kristina?
Okay. Really, I think when you write a book, you have the idea, but it's really hard to make it long enough for it to be an actual book.
Yeah.
It takes forever just to get 30 pages done. It takes forever. And also with the format of a book, you sort of need to know about that before you actually start to write a book. Because if you don't have the right format and you print out your book, it doesn't really look right. And yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. And for me, I would say try to write with an outline first. Yeah, that's what I'm doing now with my second book. Of course, you do go off the beaten path, but it does help if you have an outline to follow. So for any would-be authors out there, I would try. If I were you, I would outline the characters and try to write, in an outline format, how are you going to plan each chapter and how you plan the story to go. I think it makes it a little easier than writing off the cuff. I mean, you're going to deviate a little bit. I mean, right now I find that I'm deviating a lot from my outline, but you can always add that back into the outline. This way you don't lose your point. I mean, unless you have the time to sit there and write pages on pages and hours at a time. Most people don't have that because they got, family and they got kids. So they may write one day and then stop for 2 or 3 days and get back to it. So that's another benefit of having an outline. And it doesn't really help you with the story process, but it helps you to keep on track when you have to go back to writing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And if you want to I also found book covers being kind of hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky we found some good like templates to use that were royalty free. But you can hire someone, or if you do it with Photoshop or GIMP, and you can play around with that. But it's kind of hard, like when doing paperback, like formatting the pages right. But I would say those were learning experiences we had. And then the other thing is marketing. For all of those would-be authors, you just don't publish the book and you sit on your laurels unless you just want to say that you published a book. If you're trying to get your book sales up, and I mean, we're not looking to become rich and famous off this, but we just didn't write the book just to see we published a book. So you have to do, just like with podcasters, you have to spend a lot of time marketing yourself as a product. You have to do like what we're doing now, podcast interviews. You have to engage yourself in social media. You have to blog. And unless you got tons of money and you can pay Amazon or Facebook to do ads for you, that's the other way, or Google. But otherwise, you have to learn or hire someone to do your marketing for you.
That makes a lot of sense. And when it comes to covers, a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to find an artist to do it or so on. And you guys found some pretty good covers. But yes, I can see why that would be a very difficult part of it, because it's your book. What is best going to represent it? And that can be really hard, especially if you're like me and you're like, has to be perfect. And nope, something's imperfect. Delete that, move on.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk more in depth about your book. So with Kristina, we already talked about Invisible Girls, about a shy girl who's never had a friend, and how you were kind of that shy girl and you wanted to get that story out. But as far as the Cabal, we've talked about is there's a ninja, there's an FBI agent, and it's sort of a thriller. Why don't we go into a little more detail what the Cabal actually is about, so people can know what they're getting into?
Okay, like I said before, it starts off with this Washington, D.C. detective that finds out that his childhood friend gets murdered, and by the fact that he's a U.S. senator makes it a very high-profile case. And then he meets these characters throughout the investigation. One of them happens to be he gets reunited with his dead friend's sister. And throughout the course of the book, they develop a relationship there that goes a little bit beyond just friendship, as of course as the investigation goes. And then there's another main character in the book called Marco Ritorto. He is a FBI agent, and there's some background story as to how one particular event happened to him that was caused by the Cabal that affected him ever since it happened. It was a devastating blow to him. And there's also a particular Japanese character who is, of course, the ninja. Now, his character is tied to the Cabal because he actually worked for the Cabal, but he was under the assumption that they were not a terrorist group, so to speak. And when he finds out, they actually try to kill him.
I see.
He eventually survives. They try to kill him, and he survives. So somehow all these characters meet up, and then they join forces, and they actually prevent a terrorist attack the Cabal is actually planning. Now, towards the end of the book, there's a surprise. I don't give away too much. Where if this particular group of people did not come and save them, they would not have survived. Okay. And that leads into a totally different series that will eventually happen. Now, each character in the book will eventually be spawned off into their own series.
Okay.
And there's also the team of people that save them at the end. That also leads into another different series. And then you actually got the secret society themselves. That obviously there's going to be continuation of that, because even though they got stopped, that doesn't mean they're going to not come again and try to, do more attacks.
So is the next book that you're writing a continuation of this, or is it something else?
Well, right now, when I got that one done with that one, as I was writing that book, I'm like, you know what? I got a bunch of other ideas for different types of books. So I took out like an app on my phone called Inkpad, and I wrote down all these great ideas. And one of them was a unique story about a vampire, but it's not the typical Twilight or Vampire Diaries.
Or Anne Rice vampire? It's like more of an Anne Rice vampire, or is it like a classic vampire or modern?
It's. I will say it's in some terms it might be related. It's going to be a totally different story, but like the characters that you see in the Anne Rice novels, they're not. I don't want to. They're not like the wimpy vampires.
Yeah, it's the classic vampire where they're sort of where their power and, well, the more details about a vampire aren't necessarily safe for little girls. Let's just say vampires of mythology are very different than vampires of Twilight. Which, if you like Twilight, it's fine, but they're different.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I'm not done with the book yet, but I mean, I can give you guys the gist. Basically, because I still got a while to go. Basically, this particular book is going to be based on take place during the World War II, where the Nazis not only tortured and killed people of Jewish descent, but they also killed and punished gypsies. Yep. So there's a little historical fiction to the book, which is kind of what I like. And the fact that gypsies are always somehow associated with the occult, that also appealed to me. So that's what I chose. And basically, he gets captured. He gets separated from his daughter. And then he spends the rest of his, in book one anyway, trying to get his daughter back.
Okay. So
that's pretty much the gist. And what I'm doing is I'm writing one big novel, and I'm going to split it up. Like I'm going to write, like, let's say a 700-page book, but I'm going to split it up into three 250-page books.
Okay.
This way, the readers won't have to wait that long.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's kind of like a podcast. Like, like they say you shouldn't wait too long to put out an episode. Some people do it daily. Some people do it weekly.
Yeah.
It's all about content. So that's my goal. And then I'm going to go back and write the sequel for the Cabal.
Okay. But you are planning on going back to that. It's just not happening just
yet. Yeah. I already got a request from one reader. He's looking for an origin story for actually the Japanese character, the ninja.
Well,
so I got to figure that out.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about Amazon and Audible. We know they're on Kindle, and we know you can get paperback, which I'm assuming is the Amazon setup where they print to order for paperback.
Yes, and it's also on Barnes and Noble.
Do they print to order as well, or is it in the shelves in the store?
Yes, they print to on demand as well.
Okay, so there's this print on demand. So you go to barnesandnoble.com, not in the store.
Well, it could be in the store, for all I know. Because we saw some books getting sold that were out of network, so I assume that was from a store. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's on barnesandnoble.com and Amazon.com. But just so everybody's aware, we also have hardcover copies of our book that are only available on our website, which is www.ritortofamilybooks.com. Okay. So if you go to the website, you'll see, like, if you want to buy it from Amazon, click on this button. If you want to buy it from Barnes & Noble, click on this button. And if you want a hardcover button, click on a hardcover version, click on this button. And then we also have a shop link. If you click on a shop link, that brings you to our swag page, where we have T-shirts and hoodies and hats and mugs based on the books themselves. Like, there's an Invisible Girl hat, there's an Invisible Girl T-shirt, there's a Cabal hoodie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
So
sense. Because with Barnes and Noble, honestly, when you're in Barnes and Noble, it's sometimes hard to find specific books. If you're like, I need this specific book, good luck if you can find it sometimes, because you don't know what's ever on the
exactly.
shelf in a Barnes and Noble these days. But online, they have a lot of very good option.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really cool. I'll link to your websites in when I post this up, which will be right after I get the intro back from my voice actor, who also does stuff on Audible. Mind
Okay.
you, if you like his voice, you can look for him there too. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
okay, and you have, and the other book by Kristina will be out on Audible. I'm Survivor. Oh, no, I'm Survivor. Invisible Girl will be out in this summer sometime.
Yeah. Within hopefully the next 2 weeks.
Is it a different narrator than the first one? Is it still Felicia Elinum, or is it someone else?
The storyline?
No, a narrator. Is it a different narrator than Felicia Elinum, who did the I Am Survivor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're two different narrators. Yes.
Okay. Well, on that note, why don't you plug your Facebook and Twitter if people want to get in contact with you about more questions? You did your websites. It's through social media so people can get hold of you. And also your show. You do a podcast as well, which is not the same content as this one, but I'm quite sure there are plenty of people who would be interested in that one and what you do. Heck, we've had... Back in the day, we had like Diamond Dallas Page on here, and that was totally random. But I think that would fit more your podcast than mine. So let's promote your stuff.
Okay, yeah. So I have a podcast called Mark the Shark MMA Show. Basically, the show follows the sport of mixed martial arts. We cover all the events. We give picks on who we think is going to win a particular UFC fight or a PFL fight or a Bellator fight. And then we also discuss what's going on in the news with the sport. And we also interview health and fitness professionals in the industry so that anybody listening to the podcast, they can learn about what's going on in the world in terms of fitness and health. We've had sports psychologists, we've had MMA fighters. And in terms of social media, we do have a YouTube channel. It's just called Marco Ritorto Author. And for Facebook, if you look at Ritorto Family Books, you'll find we have a Facebook page there, or you can look for me, Mark with a C, not with a K, Ritorto, Ritorto. And we also have a Twitter account at Mark with a C again, obviously, BJJ Fighter. That's my Twitter account. And then I'm also on Instagram. Just look for me, Mark Ritorto. And pretty much I use all and the Mark the Shark MMA show has its own Facebook page. So pretty much I use my Twitter and my Instagram account to simultaneously promote both my podcast and our author business.
Do you have any upcoming guests or anything, particular episodes that you'd like to plug here?
We currently have now on our 6th episode where I interview a gentleman by the name of Dan Baronico. He has a franchise fitness gym exclusively for women only who want to use boxing as an exercise. It's called Athena's Fight Gym. And anybody who listens to my podcast or mentions my podcast, he will waive the enrollment fee, and they can get the training there for 2 weeks free.
Nice.
And that's the last podcast I did. And then in the future podcast, I think next week, I have Adam Meredith, who I interviewed. He is and then Eddie Aguilar too. That's actually Eddie Aguilar comes first, and Adam Meredith comes out in 2 weeks. Eddie Aguilar is a amateur mixed martial artist, MMA fighter, and amateur boxer from Florida. And Adam Meredith is a professional or retired professional MMA fighter. He fought on Bellator. For anybody who follows MMA, it's like right under the UFC. So, and I got some other future episodes where I interview other MMA fighters, but those are the two that are coming out. And like I said, if you live in the Boca Raton area of Florida and you're a woman and you want to get in shape, check out Athena's Gym. And he'll waive the membership fee and let you train there for 2 weeks free.
Nice.
And he'll throw in some T-shirts and hand wraps as well.
Nice. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on and sharing your stories with us. That is much appreciated.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day.